What up? What up? Thanks for tapping into the Sneaker History Podcast. My name's Nick Engvall, and I've spent the last 18 years working in the footwear business, helping companies like Complex, Finish Line, and StockX better connect with their customers. More importantly, helping sneakerheads turn their passion for sneakers into opportunities in the industry. I started Sneaker History nearly 13 years ago as a way for me and my friends in the sneaker world to have a place to talk about the business without the influence of corporate footwear giants telling us what to say or telling us what sneakerheads, I'm using air quotes there, should be featured in our content or invited to be on the show. It's with that spirit we're charging forward thanks to all of you who have recently donated to help cover the costs of keeping the podcast going. If you feel like chipping in, you can find all the info you need in the description or by joining our Discord community, which is linked below. I'm looking forward to taking the show to new levels in the coming months, with more guests from the community, talks with industry professionals, and deeper dives into the sneaker stories that shape this obsession we are all so passionate about. One last thing before we get into the episode, do the right thing and tell someone you like their kicks today. You never know how far a compliment will take you, and we all know how good it feels to be on the receiving end of some appreciation.
Jordan trying to shake off Starks. Oh, what a move!
LeBron James with no regard for human life.
Final seconds. Bryant for the win. Iverson against Gill. The crowd on its feet. Allen for the win.
Welcome to the Sneaker History Podcast.
What up, what up? Welcome to the Sneaker History Podcast. My name's Nick Engvall. I got my guy Mike Guillory running a two-man option tonight. Going to talk about some new releases that we haven't talked about yet. It's been a minute since we had the crew together to talk about new releases. So Mike's been doing his coffee time kicks. If you haven't checked out any of those interviews, highly suggest checking those out. They're on the podcast feed, channel, whatever you want to call it. And you can find them, obviously, on Mike's channel as well. But what's good, man? How you been?
Good, man. In the words of Rowan, I'm just adding on to the Nick Engvall cinematic universe. So we're just
Man, I'm just trying to be a part of your cinematic universe, man. You've been cranking out the content lately.
man. It's like you get to a point like you keep going, you're going. And I know you know this very well, and you're like, oh crap, I'm tired now.
Yeah, man, it's tough, and it's tough to keep it going. And kind of like the conversation you had with Matt Halfhill from Nice Kicks, right? It's like you lose a little bit of steam because you don't have the lining up with friends, or like we haven't been doing as much in the Discord, so it just ebbs and flows in and out. And I think I don't know, man, I guess I should talk a little bit about like my trip to Portland, because
I was
got
like,
me
man,
got me juiced again. So Andrew, Sneaker Preservation Society, Tom, In Style Shoes, and Don, Kick Sigma, and Steve, Sneaker Tech Talk, and then Seth, who is Soul to Soul, put together this kind of couple of days of events with Aaron Cooper, who's designed, countless shoes. The Pippin 2 is the first shoe that comes to mind for me, but all the KG stuff, like that, late 90s, early 2000s basketball that everybody loves from Nike, and well beyond just basketball too. He's just done a ton of stuff. But they kind of put this event together to really celebrate sneakers. And, it started out with a tour of Nike campus, which I got to run into to Rowett and see him and have lunch with him. And, it was really organic. It felt like the early days of, Nike Talk and ISS meetups and Soul Collector Forum, where it's just like people just meeting up to shoot the shit and share their passion and kind of find the nerds out there that are as nerdy as we are to get in the weeds about sneakers all the time. And it was just a beautiful experience, man. I can't say enough about it. I was super thankful for those guys, including me. And we started with a tour at Nike and, spent a good portion of the day there kind of catching up with people. And, I have a handful of friends that, are there honestly, like a handful of people that started working in the business, through me at some point, which is a beautiful thing to see them still in the business. Cause I think, especially Nike, it can be tough, if you're not, on your A game all the time, it's definitely a tough place to be, because there's a lot of people that want to be there, and they all want to do cool shit, which is what makes them great. But also it makes it challenging because people are so passionate about stuff. So that was kind of the start of it. And then we kind of had a nightcap afternoon, evening nightcap event at the future Deadstock Coffee location in Beaverton, and the space is bananas. Like coffee shop goals for me, man. Like one day I want to open a coffee shop, and like, it's got like roll up garage doors on parts of the building,
Oh,
and
dope.
kind of like a separate room that you could imagine like being used, like maybe you have somebody come in and host a little small event, and you still have the shop open for,
Yeah.
regular customers. And that was insane. I didn't really know what to expect. I saw the kind of itinerary through the, communications, but nothing was really set in stone. So, ran into, Wilson Smith on campus.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just I'm drawing a blank on who else, but basically that evening when we got over to Deadstock Coffee, Aaron Cooper was there. He's no longer with Nike, but obviously close ties to that brand and all those designers. Tom Andrich, who designed the, Agassi logo, like Tinker Hatfield is there, talking to
dope.
people. Just, I'm trying to think. I ran into Xavier, haven't met him in person, talked to him for, I can't even tell you how many years through Instagram. And finally to get him to meet in person was super awesome. But shout out to Ian at Deadstock for, giving us the space and, bringing in food, and like, it's under construction, but eventually it'll be, I think, one of the coolest spots in Beaverton to grab a coffee. And, Deadstock is already the center of the sneaker community in Portland, in my opinion. So if you're ever up there, definitely check it out. Whenever you get to go up there, definitely make sure you stop by Deadstock and Index and all those places downtown. But yeah, it was just a surreal experience. And we got to go to a little private event at TEDx Portland. They got some really cool stuff in the works. Aaron Cooper's kind of leading the charge on some really cool things that we're not really allowed to talk about, but it's going to be like a game-changing moment when it all happens. And I think that it's going to change the course of sneakers. It's just, there's too many good people involved in it. And, just the whole experience too, like he's really trying to put this together on a regular basis, whether that's yearly or whatever, but like bring everybody together and not have it be transactional, like
For sure.
all the shoes that were laid out on the table at Deadstock. Somebody said to me that, we were there for hours just staring at these shoes and talking about the stories and hearing the stories between, like Wilson and Aaron and Tinker, all these like people that we have admired for so long. And to see all these shoes, I mean, I'm a fucking nerd about this shit. So I've seen some shit in my day when it comes to sneakers, and I own some sneakers that nobody knows exist, right? Like I've been a part of this community for so long that, it's just a part of like my life at this point. But to go to this thing and see shoes that I never thought I would see in person, and shoes that I didn't know existed. I posted some of them in the Discord. I posted a bunch of them on our Patreon.
Yeah.
You've seen it on social. I posted some on Instagram as well. But just to see all those shoes, and I forget who said this. Apologies to whoever said this to me, but somebody walked up and was like, what's crazy is we've all been staring at these, sharing the stories and talking about it for, 3-4 hours. And nobody's mentioned the fact that this table probably has got about, got over $1 million worth of sneakers sitting on it.
Yeah.
And
it's awesome.
it's because it's super nerdy stuff, right? It's not a bunch of Off-White, Travis Scott, Yeezy, any of the like hype stuff. It's like Reggie Miller PEs. It's Baron Davis PEs. It's
awesome. Samples
from, all over the Nike world, and original Reebok Blasts, original Shacknosis, like just insane stuff that, you might not even think that it's cool when you look at it at first because you don't know it. But if you dig into those stories and like really hear from the people that made the colors, chose it, worked with the athletes, and then see them again, it's like, okay, this is the shit that got me into sneakers and got me excited, because now I'm getting like firsthand stories from the people that are there doing it. Kind of like back in the day when you would try to get a pair at Nike Town in San Francisco or something like that. and like you end up making friends lining up, like
Yeah.
you're lined up at Huff or wherever it is for you and where you grew up and got into sneakers. And I just kept saying like, this is exactly what I've wanted from sneakers and for sneakers for so long, because it really is a missing piece. We had it in the Discord for a while, and Greg and I talked about this. Shout out to Greg for letting me stay at his place for a few nights. Wouldn't have been able to make that trip without that. So my budget is critically low at the moment, so I'm kind of like had to piece it all together. But thankfully, Cam was like, yo, you can't not go to this, So, and we didn't even know what it was going to be about at that time, because it was just like, they were still planning it out. It was like, okay, cool. We're going to get a tour of Nike. We're going to have a event at Deadstock, and we're going to, go to dinner or whatever. And, everything lined up. All these people that
So awesome.
I'm not even, there's probably 50 people at Deadstock that I should know their name and should be able to shout them out, but it's still overwhelming a week later, like just thinking about all of it to remember all of it. And man, like just made me think like, we got to do more meetups. We got to get people together. Cause that's my favorite part about what the podcast has been, right? Getting to meet all the guys in the Discord and having our meetups here, in the Bay Area, and we've done Portland and Seattle, and like Mario sent me a text, like Mario Restores on Instagram. Probably heard of him on the podcast before, or if you're in the Discord, you definitely know him because he was doing his morning motivation post for a long time, and I think we got to get back to that because I think that was like just a huge part of. It made the community feel important, and I think we moved away from it. Everybody's got busy and all these things, but like he just went up to Portland and got to tour campus, got to go to a Ducks football game and with his brother, and got to meet Rohit, got to meet Greg and Robbie, and he texted me pictures and all this stuff, and he said, this wouldn't happen without you in the Discord. And it's like, yeah, like that's the stuff that I got to get back to, so we're going to shift a lot of that stuff around. I think I'm going to make some changes in the Discord to simplify it. And I want to have more constructive conversations in the community, met a bunch of people in Portland too, that I think could really be beneficial we could all be beneficial to each other and support each other this space, whether we're creators or, working at brands or aspiring to work at brands or designers. There's so many conversations that could be had that people get burnt out because everything that gets shown to us on an algorithm through the algorithm is it's not what we love about sneakers most of the time.
Same thing every day you look at that thing, is like, come on, be different.
So I'm really kind of look at it as like, how do we kind of recreate that support group that we had through the pandemic, and take it a step further and be like, okay, like what does this look like for the people that are trying to, make their things happen, whether that's designing or marketing or whatever. Like, I just think that is going to be a huge shift for where we're at. And, I just gotta lean into it. Like I've been kind of slacking on that stuff myself, cause I've been down a little bit with, getting laid off and having to deal with a lot of stuff I didn't expect. But this experience, I hope everybody that's listening gets the invite at some point to go to this. It's not something that a lot of people are invited to yet because they're still kind of building it, but it really changed. It didn't change. It really reminded me of why I love sneakers and the people that I've met. It's like, I've said it on the show before, but it's not about the shoes. It's about the people that you meet, lined up for them, wearing them, like, you and I, Mike, man, like we talk about content creation all the time now, like I can't remember the last time either one of us asked each other about an opinion on a shoe other than
everything else now.
Yeah, it's like we talk about everything else, and like we know each other well enough with shoes. Like most of the time we could probably take a pretty good guess, but like we care about, there's so many other things that we care about that sneakers is just the gateway to these conversations, and super important for me to like remember that and be reminded of it. So shout out to all those guys, for making it happen, and Aaron Cooper for kind of, putting it together last year. I know they did a little bit different last year with kind of just did like a barbecue at his house, which, cool. Jacques was telling me about it, and obviously really cool. But I think the growth is really cool too, because to have more people from a more diverse set of interests, I guess, within the sneaker world, was really cool. So
I'll be waiting for my invite.
Yeah, man.
Excuse me. Don't mind me.
I mean, I know you're going up there at some point next month, right? So
yes,
I don't know if that's public knowledge yet, but it's definitely, there's just a lot of good people around there that I think, through Robbie and Rowett and Greg and like within our community, but like beyond that too, Ian at Deadstock and Derek and Angela up in Seattle and Bobby and, all these people that we've talked to online for years, like once somebody says, hey, we're doing this, so many people like kind of just hop on board and
gravitate towards it.
Yeah. Cause everybody wants to be a part of it. We all want to meet each other in person if we haven't. And I think that's something that we're going to get back to, like ultimate goal with Sneaker History was to really kind of create a community space that people could, share their passion for this stuff and not feel like they have to spend money to be a part of it. Like that's like, to me is not like, I say that and I sound superficial standing in front of a wall of sneakers, but like,
ignore everything you see behind you.
Yeah. But like, I don't care if somebody has a pair of Chucks on and, it's like, that doesn't really matter. Like the game isn't to buy shoes, for me, it's like hunting down the rare stories that people forget about and like remembering them. And whatever it is for you, like, I hope that we can create a space and a community that embraces all of those different perspectives because it's missing out there, like, and nothing against the people that do the releases or do. Okay, time out. Nick Engvall here. I'm sure many of you have seen the clips of the show across social media, but did you know that you can watch the whole episode, get early access to every single episode, and even check out exclusive episodes of the show? You can join our Patreon for as little as $5 per month, and even cheaper if you sign up for a yearly plan. It helps us keep the show going, and you'll be the first to know about everything going on in our community. If you can support, hit the link in the description to see all the options. Thanks for listening, and now back to the show. The, sales and, like I've been a part of all these different teams and worked with so many different people. Like everybody has a different interest and passion around it. So I just want our piece of that to be something that is hopefully more educational and supportive of people that kind of just don't feel like they fit in with the consumerism side of sneakers, that
was kind of one of my thoughts with doing a coffee time kicks is like I feel like when people sit and have coffee, it's like literally just like talk about it. I mean, start with sneakers and we could talk about anything, and that's just having more broad conversations about it.
Yeah.
And that's really like to help build that, like I say, that community around our with Sneaker History. So I think that's just kind of like the goal all around is like, hey, let's build something to be able to have people meet and grow with each other. Because everyone, even in a big group, even it's like, oh, we're a sneaker group, like you said, everyone's going to find some kind of other interest and kind of gravitate toward different people in a group for different reasons. So like I said, that's one of the things that we don't get anymore. It was lost. I feel like when everything went to about resale and, let's invest in this shoe and that shoe, lost the fun. So I think, I'm super excited to be able to go up to Portland here in the next month or so, just to, I know it's like I said, so many people, besides Road and Robbie are up there. So it was really be cool to meet people in person because I really haven't yet.
Yeah, definitely, man. And we got to figure out a way to do it more frequently. Like I think we should do something in Houston and, or even Austin. Cause I'd love to go back to Austin and just like old stomping grounds for me. So,
yeah, man.
But yeah, I think, there's just a huge opportunity to do like something a little less, transactional and money driven around it. Like it's going to cost money to do it. And obviously we don't have any sponsors on the show yet, but hopefully we get some sponsors. Yeah, I mean, Mike and I could get into a rabbit hole about this, but I'm really not interested in advertising gambling on the show. Like, it's
whoever it
I'm
was
not trying to get you addicted.
Me. Yeah, I was like, they were bothering me, man. I was like, I am not doing this with you people.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I get messages almost every day from some form of gambling or
mystery
the cheap,
box,
kind of like mystery boxes or like Temu, and I get that all those businesses exist, but like I would rather be protective of the people that are listening to this, especially if we have younger
100%
younger folks listening, gambling can really get you. Alcohol can really get you. You know, like those types of things are not things I'm interested in promoting, regardless of how much money is involved. So that's why I also, you know, like appreciate everybody that donated when we put up that episode to ask for donations, because it really is like expensive to keep this all going, and that just like saved my ass, like no other way to put it. Super helpful, and I appreciate everybody for supporting in that way. But that's why that's why I'm asking, because we're not taking money from you know, people that are, you know, I'm not trying to be judgmental. Like I don't mind gambling myself sometimes, but I just don't want to be pushing it on
if
other
it's not
people.
something I really do, I won't believe. Like I can count on one hand how many times I gambled in my life. I'm not a fan of it. So that and Temu, I've seen their products that literally dissolve if they even like touch air. So I wouldn't want to have anybody buying that stuff. So I like I say, if we don't believe in it, we're not going to just sign a piece of paper for money. Like money's nice. Like we're not going to say, you know, we're not that high and mighty, but we want to do better for you guys at least.
Yeah, man, and you know, like when it comes to the Temus and the Amazons and all these, you know, like the Walmarts of the world, like there's a place for it. There's a time for it. Like sometimes everybody, you know, you're in a spot where you got to buy the cheapest possible thing to get you through whatever that thing is. And I get it. Like I'm there right now, you know, like literally buying things where I'm like, man, this is just the most garbage thing I've ever purchased. But, you know, it's like I just don't have a lot of money laying around right now. So, it is what it is, but I just don't want to promote that kind of stuff on the show. But anyway, let's get into a little more positive stuff, Mike. Let's talk about some rocking and copping.
Yeah, man. My biggest, I guess, be my worst take of the year was that I would never buy this shoe. Then I saw a colorway I liked. I can't remember if I did rocking and copping on this one already, but I keep wearing it because it's so dang comfortable. It's freaking Air Max DN. I'm almost mad at myself.
Wow. All right.
I'm almost upset with myself. I'm like, you know what? The Olympic, again, we talk about that. It always gets me. But that's been my rock, and I swear every time it's never in the box. Coppin is two of them right now I have my eye on. One that I just never owned one, and I want one. I just don't want to pay the price, and that's the Foam Positive one. The Royal pair is coming out. 240 is a bit tough, so I'm not gonna buy it. I'll appreciate it from afar.
Yeah.
But one I really want to get my hands on is going to be from Saucony, the J-Tips Pro Grid Omni 9, one of the J-Tips to-do list. Super, they were just killing it. I swear, but J-Tips and Saucony become one of those dynamic duos in sneakers like Ronnie and Asics are. And yes, I will say this, like Travis and Jordan, people get excited about when you hear those two names together, so I like what they're doing.
Yeah, man. Yeah, if you're not in the Discord, I posted up a sample pair of foam posits, the Royal Foams, before they were attached to pennies. So they've got Nike branding on them and some really interesting details. So if you're not in the Discord, hit the first link wherever you're watching or listening to this. I think it's in the Cool Pairs channel or Interesting Pairs channel. I forget what channel it is, but it's just one of those things, like, again, like getting to see that kind of stuff, like really gets me excited about being a part of the sneaker world. And I guess like for my rocking and copping, I basically been like, I pulled this out, the Zoom Turf Schumachers for, I forget what moment it was in the Discord that we did a while back, but that was back on my feet again. And then this is kind of the takeaway from Portland. This is the EQLZ 24/7.
I want to try that shoe so bad.
It's such a beautiful shoe, man. I didn't have Aaron Cooper sign it. He was doing his little logo on it, but I didn't have him sign it because I want to wear him and I want to play in him. So this colorway is kind of like the reverse of the original, and this actually comes out. Let's see, from time that this comes out, it's Saturday. So Saturday, what is it? The 14th, I think. But this shoe is
14th,
yeah. This shoe is super dope, and like it's hard to explain, like when you feel some shoes, like you feel the plastic stuff, right? You feel the cost cutting measures that went on with
the
it.
Cheapness.
And this does not feel like that at all. This feels like, I forget what retail is. They gave me this pair. Thanks to Aaron and the EQLZ guys for this pair. But I think like this is a shoe that I think they sell for $150 roughly.
That's not bad.
And I think like if you bought a shoe, if you paid for, like, if you paid 200 for this shoe, you would still feel pretty confident in your purchase. Not that like I'm saying you should go spend $200 on any sneakers at this point,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of good deals out there. But as far as hoop shoes go, I would put this right up there at the top of the list with some of the other pairs from Jordan and Nike that I've seen recently that, the AE1, right? Like, aesthetically, obviously a lot of differences, but quality wise, I think, these are going to be in a lot of top 5 lists, top 10 lists at the end of the year for people that actually get them in hand. And I hope that it does well, because like it's tougher to get people to make that purchase without actually having them in hand. Yeah. But it's impressive, to say the least. I just, and like to get to talk to Aaron Cooper about the shoes and about the whole process, seeing some of the colorways that are coming, super surreal, and just knowing the experience that he brings to it. And also, my friend Brett Golliff, who's been on the podcast before, is also involved in that. These guys have decades of experience in the design world that it's hard to explain or show that experience when you're talking about it. But when you see product that comes from, guys that have this level of experience, people that have, decades of experience designing stuff, whether that's shoes or otherwise, it's just so drastically different than some of the, it's nothing against the people that are only a couple of years into their journey, but like, when you have to deal with the politics of big business, the money-making aspects of shoes, a lot of times corners get cut, and it's not on the designers or the, the colored people or even the marketing people, right? Like everybody's trying to make it work with the allotted money they have. And when you have the level of experience that guys like Aaron and Brett have, it's just like next level straight out of the gate, right? They know where they can make improvements. They know where who to go to get the quality product without, costing a fortune, the way some of the new stuff, like when you're just cold calling for, footwear production, it's expensive. We've seen a lot of these companies come and go in the last like 5 to 10 years where, like these kind of startups, I forget that brand that was from Portugal that was making shoes for a bunch of people.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And they went under and just disappeared on everybody.
Yeah, I bought a couple of pairs from them, and they're really nice, but they're stupid expensive. That was when I had a little bit more money to play with. And, you're spending $275 on shoes because they're handmade. But, it's impossible to keep that up without, the marketing power behind you, and obviously the pandemic, kind of slammed the door on a lot of those startups too. So, but really cool shoe. Definitely would check it out if you get a chance to check it out. It's a really cool shoe. I'm actually there's a Mako Shark colorway. I don't know if it's out yet or if it's okay. Yeah, that shoe.
They put that one on Instagram. That gray one. I was like, look, I want to hoop in that shoe. Every time I see it, I'm like, I just want to play ball in that shoe. It looks so good.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So, but yeah, I mean, let's get into some of these releases, man. Like you mentioned the Reebok stuff, so I'm gonna let you talk about the.
Yeah. So before we get into releases, we hadn't all been on to talk about Reebok's re-entry into performance basketball. It's been since 2009? I don't know. Fact check myself there. I can't remember. But it's been a long time since they had a performance basketball shoe they've released. I don't know what they didn't really seem like when they did that timeline. They didn't really include the Solution as one of those like purely performance shoes. That was more like kind of a heritage model. But Angel Reese was the person wearing the shoe, and no, this is not her signature. This is just, they're trying to get back into it, trying to get a flow of things before they give her signature. So that I like that they're doing that. They're not just throwing, stuff in. They're trying to make sure it all works right. It's called the Engine A. I actually think it's a really cool looking shoe. I'm glad they didn't go with something that was like, oh, here we have a question and we just tweaked some things to approach it. I'm glad they went with something new looking, something different. It's coming 2025, so we're not going to see it right now. So we're just getting players on court, but kind of sucks, bad luck, because now Angel Reese is out for the remainder of the season with injuries, so we're not going to see anybody wearing that shoe on court to my knowledge. I don't think they have anybody else signed. At least no one like they've been really bigging up like Angel. So I think it's a really nice shoe. I've seen the silver colorway that she wore initially, and then they had that slime green color. Design's great. I can't wait to actually play in the pair when they become available to the public. I'm just happy. This is the perfect timing. I mean, I'm hoping that Reebok can do what Puma did, because
Yeah.
Puma's making some great shoes. I think they need to probably take a jump back into the design room with the Mellows, because they're all looking the same now. But in what they've produced and quality, they've been great. They came in. They haven't had a bad shoe to my knowledge. So I'm hoping Reebok can do the same and just kind of take it nice and slow, though. I don't want them to go in and just start. You got 15 different models in like 2 years. Take it slow. Build up. Get a roster of good players underneath you. You have some pretty decent classes coming up, rookie classes. So I think this is a perfect time for Shaq and AI, and of course Reebok as a whole, to really market this right and rebuild what used to be a dominant, basketball force, I think.
Yeah, man, I couldn't agree more. I think basketball is just like a huge opportunity, right? We're like the EQLZ stuff, the Kyrie stuff, we're about to see a huge push from Anta. You'll start seeing it from all the like more traditional news influencer creator people coming up, but like the next like few weeks or month or so is going to be a big deal for Anta, and I think that what's the brand the brand you've done a handful of reviews on them.
Serious player only. They
Serious
signed
player
a few
only.
NBA players.
Yeah,
And honestly, no shot at Nike, but they're making Kobe 8s better than y'all making Kobe 8s right now. So they're doing good.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's like the weird predicament that Nike's in, right? They've had all these guys playing in Protro stuff, like, okay, that's cool. We all love it, but modern basketball shoes are evolving, and we're seeing it from all these other brands. We're seeing those slight improvements in ways that we would only normally see those from a Nike or a Jordan. And, on the flip side of that, you got Jordan with their, I forget what that skate shoe that they just,
the Flight Court.
Yeah, I mean, like that shoe,
Flight Court.
It just feels like they're struggling to find who they are again and their brand identity. And, again, like, it's a really tough thing for Nike to deal with something like the Kobe line and have all these athletes that only want to play in Protro product when you should be making, players play in the, I don't know, the GT cuts or whatever that, like all these modern shoes, right? And then you also have like LeBron is kind of on his own in this, like dollar amount world where like KD is a little, around there, a little bit less, doesn't quite have it. Although like the collabs that the KD, forget which one they're on, 16, 17? 17.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great colorways on that shoe.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're, selling well, but I think on the flip side of that, you got Adidas with like the new Dame is absolute fire. The AE1, they signed him to a huge deal a month or two ago, right? So you're going to see way more from them coming. And I think, we had some interesting conversations in the Discord last night or the night before about, the Trey line and, just the evolution for Adidas basketball, because they have the ability to go broader. And, like, I think everybody kind of has a different opinion on it, but it's like the Harden line has become like a flashy shoe to wear on court versus the early models were very like functional performance oriented. Not to say that the new ones aren't, but you have to really be into Harden to wear the shoes now. And that doesn't always work for everyone, but that leaves an opening, like all these smaller brands, like what's the brand that 361, like they've got some cool stuff. Rigger's got some cool stuff. Yeah, man. Like there's a lot of stuff that I think,
they're really pushing a new
yeah.
way of wave stuff. And I've heard just amazing things. Like they say those things will run circles around a Kobe in a minute. And I love Kobe's. I hope for them to be better, but everyone's catching up, man, and it's a great thing to see because it pushes. I mean, it's an age-old story. When everybody
Yep.
starts catching up, it pushes the competition to do better. It's just there's so many great options out there. So I'm really happy to see it. And again, glad Reebok's in it again, so that way we can again push that level of competition to get a better shoe. But Nike they have to like start making players play in those shoes. I don't know if you can make them, but it's like you gotta, at least for these new players coming in, don't just start giving them all these, like I say, these player edition Protros. You get GT cuts or
Yeah.
whatever they're called now. There's the other ones, not the GT cut. It's the other one that they were trying to push. It looked like the old retro. And I cannot remember to save my life. But there's models out there they need to push because no one's buying them. They're super expensive too, so it's not helping at all.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's interesting because the other side of basketball right now, you've got De'Aaron Fox getting his own signature line from Curry, which is going to be, like I'm 100% in anything De'Aaron Fox
Sacramento,
anyway, right? Yeah, like I mean, look, I'm not like the biggest Under Armour fan, but I have a shoe on the wall here that has my initials on it when I worked at Soul Collector, like the Bloodline, Brandon
yeah.
Jennings. He's been doing some really cool stuff again, bringing that back or bringing his name back after his career with his tough crowd stuff. And I think too, like I've got like a bunch of random Under Armour PEs. I've got a Grievous Vasquez Kings PE, like, like shoes
So
that
random.
like most people don't even know exist. Like I said. But like for me, like it's really like important to chase your own team's shoes, whether that's, like someone like Grievous Vasquez who's only there for a year or two and disappears, or, De'Aaron Fox who, I've got his Nike Air Max, his Swipa Air Max from a few years back. But this is just a cool time for me as a fan to like also like, I mean, they've got me looking at basketball shoes in a different way again. And I think that is like really telling as to like, like you said, the competition, right? The competition going into other releases, even like the best part of like, sneakers to me is when the brands are going at each other. That's why I love the AE1. That's why I love Anthony Edwards and Adidas just being all in on that competitiveness. I think of like this Court Victory pump from Reebok coming out, like the Michael Chang shoe basically in like the red apple, big apple colorway. I forget what it's called, but like that shoe is the epitome of competition in the space. And on the flip side of that, you just had the tech challenges come out. So like the brands, when they are really going at each other and pushing each other to be better, we as consumers get the absolute best product. And that doesn't mean you've got to buy the product brand new at full price. I'm saying like that product, like Agassiz and Michael Chang's went on sale back in the day. But because those brands were trying to compete so directly with each other and the athletes were competing, so directly on the court, it just made it such a beautiful thing for consumers. And I really hope that for the sake of sneakers, basketball starts to take on that competitiveness. Like I don't think the NFL and football has enough connection to footwear we wear off the field to make that a thing. Like there are some, like you can think of like the Deions that are coming back, which another release coming up. I just saw that like the Diamond Turf, I mean, some people call it the Falcons, but still a 49ers colorway to me. So, but like those shoes, right? Like that's a whole era of, Dion was just in everybody's face. He was out there to beat you. And I think that we haven't had an athlete like that. Like I get that Curry is a top tier player. LeBron is a top tier player. These guys are like absolutely going to be Hall of Famers and like revered for decades to come because of how much they meant to the game of basketball. But at the same time, they don't have the marketing behind them that feels that way, right? And this is not shots at either of them because obviously they have been really successful in what they do. Championships on and off the court. Both those guys are guys that I think are role models, regardless of how you feel about that. But they're not, the marketing for it is not in your face. It's not, it's not Ant talking shit about other players.
Yeah.
It's not even, KD is even on that level with Ant where he's like, going to talk some trash. And, he was the bad guy in some of those ads back in the day, but like we never got that with LeBron. We never got that with Curry. And, with those guys with their off the court stuff, it takes away from the ability to paint the picture that Nike and Wieden and Kennedy used to do for someone like Charles Barkley or Dennis Rodman, right?
Yeah.
And not to say that everybody has to be that to sell a shoe, but if you're not at the top, if you're not top 1, 2, or 3 in the game, then you have to be creative in the way you're marketed. And, like, I hope that De'Aaron Fox's shoe sells well, and I hope that line continues for a long time. I hope he remains the Sacramento King. But, like, all that stuff can be, lost in a moment, So kind of like Angel, right? Like, Reebok getting that momentum and having that moment, they're right on the same stage with Caitlin Clark debuting a Kobe Protro colorway. But then, shit happens, and now you got to go back to the drawing board and like, okay, what NIL guys do we have? What who's coming up in the WNBA that we can, maybe bring on early or get somebody in college and like start to build those relationships for the future. So it's going to be really interesting the way all this is kind of playing out, because I think that it feels like we're in a lull for sneakers, like we've kind of, okay, we've seen enough Travis Scott releases. We've seen the attempts with, the Billie Eilish shoes and, and that stuff sells fairly well, like it doesn't sell like the way we think of shoes selling out maybe, but it's still profitable for Nike to do that. And she's incredibly talented. So like, I get why you would want to partner with somebody like that. But it's left open a big gap here that needs to be filled. And the market seems to be going towards like performance stuff, which I think is really cool. And I really am just like excited to watch it and talk to you guys about it every week. Cause I think over the next like 6 to 12 months, we're going to see like some really cool shit happen in sneakers. And there's going to be like a renewed excitement in the business. And it's long overdue, like, personally, I've needed it. Like I said, this trip to Portland really like reinvigorated my love for this stuff. And, I think, you and I have talked about it, right? Like doubling down on content and going hard and like, like these are things that we really love doing. And I think that translates, like one of the things that I believe that happens in the sneaker world is the consumer and now like I would say the creators like you and I and so many other people now drive so much of the energy back to the people at the brands that then put that energy into the product. It's a very circular thing. And to see it kind of happening real time right now on our side of things, I think that you'll start to see even more interesting things happen from, creative partnerships, NIL deals, just design. Like I think people are ready for things to be outside the box, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think a lot of it's moving away from entertainment in the sense of we got Travis Scott, who's probably the entertainer we're seeing now, who has his shoe. But I mean, offhand, I can't tell you. J Balvin,
Bad Bunny,
and Bad Bunny. Those are the three I can name off right out the rip that are entertainers that are still selling shoes out. It's not like it was a few years ago, where it seemed like every entertainer had a colorway or something. We're getting. You said it. I think we're getting back to performance. I mean, something I didn't expect, and I was like kicking myself because I thought I would have time to go buy these. But after Curry won his first gold, and they released the podium colorways, the podium pack, sold out immediately. So I didn't think that was going to happen. I mean, again, you saw it had a performance moment, and you sold a basketball shoe out. Like, when's the last time we really saw that? So that was really cool to see a moment on court drive sales for a basketball shoe, and it wasn't because Travis Scott had it on or somebody had it on at a concert. I think that was really cool, and I think that is going with, again, you have all these different deals going on with colleges being more visible, the players being more visible, I should say, getting these deals early, these different TV deals going on now with basketball. I think we're going to get to a point where basketball, performance-type sneakers, training shoes are going to be the focus again, and I'm here for it because that's my favorite kinds of shoes.
Yeah, me too, man. I think too, like, it's not to say that entertainers can't sell shoes.
Oh, for sure.
I think that when sports drives the business, the casual shoes kind of can align with that in a way and still be really successful. Like the right partnerships obviously make a huge difference. Like you said, someone like J Tips and Saucony being able to like take a piece of the market that, you would have never thought that, 5-6 years ago. And, but I think too, like, there's the episode that I did with Andy and Aaron about, just like teaching and sneakers and that a few weeks back was really interesting conversation because, a lot of kids are just wearing Crocs, Crocs have been just like cranking out so many, I saw those leather jacket Crocs that came out. I saw there's a Pokemon, whole collection on the way. Yeah. Batmobile, like part of what I think has hurt the like overall business of sneakers is really just that, like, kind of, I don't know the right way to say this, and I don't mean it in a degrading way, but the cheap injection molded foam type stuff, the Wave Runner or Wave, whatever that Yeezy shoe was, the Crocs, the, like the trend that everybody hopped on for a couple of years there, where you're selling a bunch of like $70, $80, $100 shoes that are kind of for, not for athletic purposes, obviously, but they're super comfortable, but they also wear out. Like if you actually wear those shoes on a regular basis, the way a lot of younger kids are, then those shoes are gone in a matter of months. Where, that's why I think when you do have the performance side and the retro side, people are going to wear the retros casually. Like that's kind of the perfect combo for the industry. But it's also just like, I mean, we'll bitch and moan about all sorts of shoes being uncomfortable, but you throw a good set of insoles in most any retro product shoe, and you got a pretty solid shoe to wear. I think that's going to be like where we get back to. And I think, that is really a good thing too, because it will mean that the collaborators that have been maybe a little repetitive in the things that they've created can then rethink what they want to do, right? The problem with the industry right now is the brands are pressured to make money, and that will always be a challenge, right? But if the solution to that is to go to a collaborator and make the same shoe in a different color for 5 years straight, then the consumer gets tired of it. So now we're gonna see a shift into more performance stuff and more interesting, thinking outside the box. I think people taking a little bit more risk too, and ultimately lifts the whole industry, because once that stuff starts selling a little bit better, then the pressure is off the marketing teams and the creative teams and even the designers, to be honest, to just default with a collaboration that's going to sell out, right? Because and I don't mean that for somebody like a J Tips, like they're not making a shit ton of money off of his collabs, but it's creating great energy for him and for the brand of Saucony. When you do a collab like Travis Scott, you're talking about a shit ton of pairs and a lot of money being made.
Yeah, they're making,
and that's different
more than what you think they're actually making.
Exactly. So I mean that for like the highest level of collaborators in terms of like sales volume, not in terms of like whatever other measurements that people think about.
Yeah, and then also one of the other things I've noticed just having, I think we talked about this briefly in another episode. I know we're talking about the Crocs and his kids, but like, I don't know what it is. It's so weird to me because I felt like even now, I feel like I have to, like, I'm not saying like get dressed to like the, like everything perfect when I walk out the house, but I like to look nice when I leave the house. But kids now, they don't care, dude. They're throwing on pajama pants and the last week's t-shirt that hasn't been washed and throwing on Crocs, and they're spending their money on more like, oh, let me get my PC set up or my streaming thing set up. So they don't care about these shoes coming out. So let me buy Crocs and I go buy a graphics card or a new camera for. So their priorities have shifted like very like aggressively towards other things like fashion. Unless you're in that world and like live in those different places, just normal places you find like school age kids, they're walking around in freaking sweats and again in a pair of Crocs or whatever, fill in a blank sand or foam shoes. So they don't.
Yeah.
But when they're on a court, like they have to wear those things, or when they're on a field, they have to wear these things. So that's why I think that's going to help push performance as well. Let's put the money in that bucket where they're actually buying those shoes.
Yeah, totally. And honestly, I think that's also a trend that kind of ebbs and flows. I think there's,
Oh yeah,
the cycle of like people like not caring versus people caring. I think we're kind of coming towards the end of the, I'm just going to look like I'm fresh out of bed with pajama bottoms on. Not to say that it's like, I don't care what people wear. Like, if that's your thing, that's your thing. Like, do what you got to do,
do what you got.
But I think that a lot of times, when you start to get a little bit older, like, you're like, oh, I'm looking for a job of some kind, or I'm at, in high school and I'm thinking more about, finding a partner, or even in college, and you're like, okay, I'm trying to be like an adult sort of with, impress the other, folks I'm out here trying to impress. I think those things ultimately work themselves out from the younger age. But I do think that like there's a layer of trend on it right now that is like fading in a sense.
For sure.
And usually that also happens in sneakers, right? Like I think about like, Nike Tech Fleece, right? Was like, super casual, but it was like a thing. Everybody had to have it.
Hey,
and
that's
then,
still
like,
amazing. I don't care who you are.
Yeah. And they brought it back, right? 10 years later, and they bring it back and it still sells well, right? But then on the flip side of that, you look at like 2 to 3 years on either side of that, and you've got like crazy expensive Japanese denim and like, like the
denim and all that
ebbs
stuff,
and flows of all those things are just, they're cycles, right? So when the cycles hit at the same time, you have moments like what we're going through right now where, everybody's a little burnt out on the mass produced sneaker colorways. Everybody's a little burnt out from, the pandemic, the economy, all that stuff. And then like on top of it, you've got like this trend of, we're just going to wear Crocs and, wave run or not wave runners, but foam runners and all these like, kind of oddball, foam shoes. Not to say that they're not comfortable. Mike and I definitely wear the Sauconys pretty regularly, but it's just one of those things. And I think we're about to see like you get fresh people into the companies, you get fresh people into the, kind of, I don't want to say collecting, because it's not really about collecting, but just that become passionate about sneakers somehow.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you got like, new shit popping off all over the place, and it starts to drive things back in a really cool direction. So it's going to be really cool. I think like, watching that, and hopefully, we get to see some new people get some opportunities to think outside the box, man.
Yep. No, definitely. And this time I'm trying not to go too crazy. I'm like, this is the perfect time to buy shoes and get them in my collection before everyone comes back. But you can't do it. Like, you can't just spend all my money.
Yep. So I was going to ask you, so there are a few other releases that I was thinking about bringing up, but obviously like ALD and New Balance is one of those brands that's kind of like you said, it goes hand in hand, and somehow they seem to sell out most of their stuff too. They bring back a 475, which is like super old school dad shoe looking New Balance.
Yeah,
comes out in September.
Not for me. Is that a pre-order?
It's not for me, but I was going to ask what you thought about them.
Nah, it's not a me. I'm not a big 475 or 574 fan, honestly. That's like one, I don't know, because I think I saw it too much of that style when I was growing up as a kid. I just never liked it. And like there's so many of them floating around, and they were always just like the cheaper. But I know they have some great ones, like some made in USA's that are. That shape of shoe is just weird to me now. But no knock to anybody who likes it. It's a solid shoe for anybody who wears it. Just for me, the shape is jarring now for some reason.
Yeah. I'm definitely a fan of the 574. Like I had a ton of pairs of those back in the day.
Yeah.
I do wonder like if there's enough nostalgia for a 475, or if people are just buying it because it's ALD, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Well, that's what they're gonna do. So they're gonna sell it out, and then they're gonna drop a bunch of random, GRs, and they'll, figure it out from there. I mean, that's what they did with the 550.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I suckered myself into a pair of those too that I never wore. So I think I have 2 pairs of those that I never wore.
I had 2 pairs. I got rid of both pairs, and they fit
All
weird.
Right.
They fit very weird. Like it's like they fit snug in the front, but then there's some random heel space in the back. And like, what is this?
So there's two other shoes that on the basketball side that I was going to ask you about.
Yeah.
There's New Balance two-way V5s.
Okay. Yeah.
And then there's the Jaw 2 that I don't think we've talked about. Either
Jaw?
of those interesting to you? Do you have any of the New Balance two-ways?
I have not tried a New Balance basketball shoe out yet.
Okay.
It's one I need to actually try, but I have not done it, and I feel kind of bad because I've tried all these other shoes. And I'm like, how have I not jumped into this one? But I don't know. It's just not. I'm looking at it now. It's like it's not something that appeals to me so much. But if it's comfortable, if it works, I'm down to try it. The Jaw, it's okay. I still feel like there's something missing with the jaw line. I don't know what it is. I can't pinpoint it. I couldn't be like, oh, go fix this. But it's something about it's just missing to me, and I feel like they need to do something like to make it more exciting. I think as that's a lack of better words.
Yeah, I think that's another thing that happened that kind of threw things off for Nike, right? Like there's so much investment into Ja, and then all of a sudden he does some dumb shit, and you just can't spend the money, the wild card that he'd become. And then his injury on top of that after the fact, like I think really put them in a tough spot to like really be able to get more creative with it, I think too. So like, I think, that line needs it's very similar to the Paul George line. Like I know Robbie doesn't like Paul George or the Clippers, but like I'm a big fan of Paul George and I love that line. Like I think it's probably one of the most consistent, for me, it's one of the signature lines that I most consistently like the design of. Yeah. And, and it doesn't hurt that, the price of those was, in the 130 to 150 range for a long time. But I think that line's disappearing either after this one or next season.
With the jaw line?
The Paul George line, right? Like,
that was done already.
Yeah,
that was officially done. They haven't produced it's basically simultaneous of Jaw 1, PG 6, and they just faded off and put the money in the Jaw basically.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, the last three shoes I wanted to ask about. We've got Sneakers and Stuff, Asics Gel Quantum 368, which is like all these are kind of more casual, chunky, a little bit trail vibes.
Yeah.
The New Balance 990 V4 Macadamia Nut, which is pretty standard offering from New Balance. Yeah. Great color. And then White Mountaineering and Merrill, so I'm a big fan of White Mountaineering. They used to do collabs with Adidas. They've done collabs with, I think they did Puma or Saucony after Adidas. They've done a lot of like interesting stuff, and they're kind of like this, I hate the term, but they're kind of like a Japanese Gorpcore brand.
Oh yeah.
Where like it's a little bit more for the elements, kind of ACG or Adidas Terex vibes. So that shoe's super interesting to me. I don't own any Merrells. I'm sure that if you're listening to this show or watching us, you think of Merrell and you think of like old people hiking. And I don't want to say that I fit that bill yet, but I'm kind of there at this point. So,
well, they've been becoming more popular. I've seen like they have their the Hydro Mock. People really like that one.
That's
there
a cool
was like some
shoe.
Different variations of it that people were always talking about. It was a great shoe. Never owned Merrell. I can't justify the purchase because I don't hike like that. So they would sit in my closet and nothing would happen with them.
Do you have any Solomons?
You know what? I had the XT6. I ended up selling it because I didn't wear it a ton. I like the shoe, but I was trying to get rid of some stuff to buy something else, so it just didn't make the cut. There's actually a store here. What's the name of it now? It's Proper. I think they actually have a Long Beach location too. There's Long Beach and here in Houston. They're doing a 60% off sale, like trying to get rid of inventory. They got some Solomon XT4s half off. XT4 is probably one of my favorite outdoor shoes. I love the colors they put on them. There's the Aurora Borealis pack.
Yeah, that shoe.
Solomons are great.
Dope.
I think they're an amazing shoe.
Yeah, so I think Merrell's coming for a little piece of that Solomon action, man. Like, I think too, like it's going to be interesting because the people that are buying, like this SNS ASIC shoe, and some of these New Balances, right, that are a little bit more outdoorsy, I guess the best way to put it.
Yeah.
There's so many more options out there right now, and I mean, like we said at the beginning about the other basketball stuff, like I just think it's great. that people have so many choices and some of these other brands are making some cool shit when
Mm-hmm.
you don't expect it, right? Like, I mean, I've talked about them on the podcast before, but like Keen's been doing some really cool
Mm-hmm.
shit with some of their designs lately. And I think I'm probably going to try to get some folks on the design side from some of these brands on the show. Maybe with you for Coffee Time Kicks, or just, you know, with myself or whatever
Yeah,
to
bring
talk
them
about
on.
it, because it's like a cool like corner of the sneakerhead world that I don't think we
Yeah,
talk about enough, but I think all of us can kind of appreciate the nuance of what they all do. So
sure.
if you'd be interested in that, definitely, you know, like let us know in the Discord, or leave a comment wherever you see this, or listen to this, because definitely kind of trying to get feedback from everybody on where you want us to take the show. Let us know what you think about Mike's conversations too. Coffee Time Kicks got a few more lined up, which are going to be really good. And I've just been enjoying like having the conversations with people and getting to know
Same.
people, you know, outside of, you know, outside of the social world, right? Get a little bit more of a conversation with them when you do an hour long podcast. So to me,
Mm-hmm.
that's really enjoyable. So I feel like we're leaning way more into that going
Oh
forward,
yeah,
hopefully.
yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, anything else you got any news you got to share before we get out of here?
Can't think of anything else right now. Yeah, I'm nothing new right now. I will say, stay tuned. I'm actually like trying to actively work on a logo for Coffee Time Kick. So maybe if I can get my
Okay.
life together, I put, we can get some additional. I know we're trying to get some like shirts and stuff out. We can just load it up. Like we're trying to load this website up, guys. Like we're really trying to give you guys everything you're asking for and more. So just be patient with us. We're working on it.
Definitely. Yeah, and definitely check out Mike's channel. He's got a lot of great content going up. I'll let you tell him how to find you.
Yeah, you guys always find me here at Sneaker Histories. It's my home. But you want to find me other places too. Instagram, Threads, TikTok is MadWatcher789, and of course you can find me on YouTube at just Mike Guillory. So those how you find me. But always stop here first. Make sure you guys leave comments; those help out a lot. Subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. I know everyone tells you that every time you listen to something, but it really does help to get us through all those crazy little algorithms that the sites like to play with.
It absolutely does. You can find me at Nick Ingval on all the platforms. More importantly, at Sneaker History everywhere. And I don't know if I've told people on the show. I think we've published one of them, but been doing a podcast with my friends Jacques Slade and Eric Valdez called Cars and Kicks. It's been really fun to connect two of the things that I really love, and having a lot of fun with it. And I think it's going to be like a really interesting one to kind of be the sibling to the Sneaker History podcast, because I think, you know, like Mike's Coffee Time Kicks, it kind of adds a different flavor of us to, you know, like your options, and hopefully you guys all enjoy it and support. And like Mike said, leave us some comments. Let us know if you're not in the Discord. That's probably the best place to drop the comments. But obviously, we're posting a lot of the clips onto Instagram and stuff. So let's have a conversation about it, and let's connect with other like-minded enthusiasts and make this place a fun place without all of the chaos that we all have to deal with on the internet. Thanks for rocking with us, watching or listening, wherever you're at. We appreciate you. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace. Hey, Nick here again. Before you take off, I want to thank you for listening to the Sneaker History Podcast. Be sure to hop into our Discord to answer this episode's The Last Shot question and get to know our community of sneaker enthusiasts. If you'd like more insights on the trending topics in the sneaker world, I've also recently started a newsletter to share my knowledge from nearly 2 decades of experience working in the footwear industry. You can find the link to that below, or go to sneakerhistory.com/newsletter. And last but not least, tell someone you like their kicks today. You never know how far a simple compliment can take you, and we all know how good it feels to be on the receiving end of some appreciation. Thank you for all the support, and we will catch you on the next episode. Peace.